Aaronnee Smith broke out in a major way during his sophomore season at Vanderbilt. Standing at 6'6" with a 6'10" wingspan, the 21-year-old rose his draft stock to a point where he is now likely to be taken late in the draft lottery. The statistical progression from Nesmith's freshman year to his sophomore year in college is astounding. During his freshman year, Nesmith only averaged 11 points per game on a sub 40% field goal percentage and only shot 33% from 3. During 14 games in his sophomore season, Nesmith more than doubled his scoring average to 23 a game and shot above 50% from both the field and the three-point line. This three-point shooting clip makes Nesmith arguably the greatest three-point shooter in this draft. He's mostly a catch-and-shoot guy, but can also knock down some shots off the dribble. He's also great at moving off the ball, which helped him launch 8 three-point attempts per game against defenses that were keyed on stopping him. Nesmith projects as a 3-and-D guy in the NBA, and the best aspect of his defense is his team defense. He couples that with a strong and developed frame, which gives confidence in him being a solid on-ball defender in the future as well. He's also a very smart player with a high basketball IQ, he's impressive in interviews, and he's very self-aware of which parts of his game he needs to work on in order to reach his true potential. He also has one of the higher floors in the draft lottery, assuming his sophomore season wasn't a fluke. He should be ready to play right away for a good team due to his level of three-point shooting ability and defense. He has a clear-cut role in the NBA, which should be a good complement next to star players. However, his overall upside might be limited due to a few key weaknesses. He's not the best at creating his own shot off the dribble. In order to become more than just a 3-and-D role guy, this will be an area of his game that he needs to improve. He's also not a good playmaker or passer. He averaged less than 1 assist per game last season at Vanderbilt, even though he had the ball in his hands a majority of the time. Should he develop his game off the dribble, this will also be another part of his game that he needs to develop in order to keep defenses honest and to stop defenses from loading up on him. And while Nesmith is an overall good defender, the one area you could say he's lacking in that regard is his on-ball defense. He doesn't have the quickest feet laterally, and this could be an issue once he reaches the next level. But it's not just his lateral quickness, he struggles with his athleticism in general, he doesn't have a quick first step, and he struggled to get his shoulders past his primary defender in order to get downhill and attack the rim in college. In the NBA against quicker defenders, this issue might be more pronounced. He's also not the most explosive player around the rim, and oftentimes he has to make up for that with tough, creative finishes that he otherwise wouldn't have to resort to if he was more athletic. He also only played 14 games his sophomore year when he broke out, compared to 32 games played his freshman season where he struggled a lot more. There is a question whether or not his production during his sophomore season was due to a small sample size. It would be easier to have confidence in his game moving forward if he did it over a 30 or 40 game season compared to only 14. And the reason he played only 14 games his sophomore year was due to a foot injury. For some players, a foot injury in college precedes some lingering foot issues in the NBA, and for others, they never have to deal with foot issues again. It remains to be seen whether this will be an injury concern for Nesmith going forward. So now it's time to talk with Eric Brandt on Aaronnee Smith, who Eric has ranked 7th on his big board. I have him a little bit lower at 13th. This is Eric's 1B draft crush, because in the Saddiq Bey draft profile, he said Saddiq Bey was draft crush 1A, Aaronnee Smith is draft crush 1B. So as I did with that Bey video, I'm going to let Eric Brandt just go off on why he really likes Nesmith, who he has projected higher than a lot of mock drafts and draft experts.
Well, for one, going back at least 10 years, he's the best shooting prospect I've evaluated. I just love his shooting form. I love his ability to knock down threes. Anytime you shoot over 50% on over 8 threes a game, it's something you gotta love, especially when you're playing on a team like Vanderbilt where you know the defense is keen on you and looking to stop you from shooting threes, and you're still able to hit them down at an amazing clip like that. So just shooting the ball, I think it'll absolutely translate to the NBA. I think he's going to immediately be one of the better shooters in the NBA. I think he's got NBA range on his shooting ability. And I just really like this. Once again, we talked about this with Halliburton, where you see a player that shows just amazing growth from his freshman year to his sophomore year. And I've heard Nesmith in videos talking about how his coach left after his freshman year, and there was a period of time where he didn't have a strict workout plan that a coach would give him during the off season. And so he had to kind of develop his own goals, had personal goals on a daily basis. And then for like a overall growth that he wanted to do over the summer. And he watched tons of film, specifically on C.J. McCollum and Damian Lillard, who are two great guards to look at, right? And then, so he kind of learned their little sidestep three-point shot, which he added to his game this year. He's great coming off screens and moving off the ball. And then also, he's incredible catching the ball on the run, getting completely square almost every time he shoots the ball. That's one thing that's amazing about his ability, is that he is always square when he shoots the ball. And I just like everything about his shot and his game. And I think he has the potential defensively to be very good on that end as well. He's got a very high IQ, in my opinion. He recalled defensive tendencies and scouting reports of games both in his freshman and sophomore year, like off the top of his head. And like he knew in what plays what he was trying to do. He recognizes what he needs to do better on. He feels like he can acknowledge those weaknesses and correct them. And he explains clearly what he needs to do better on those different plays. And I just think this is an amazing guy, and he's gonna light the NBA on fire.
All right. I am going to explain why I'm not as high on him as you are. Nesmith only played 14 games his sophomore year, shot 52% from the three-point line, which looks amazing, especially considering it is on 8 attempts a game. The problem is only 14 games. That is a pretty small sample size. He played 32 games his freshman year and only shot 33.7%. So he could have definitely just improved a ton due to hard work and being in the gym all the time. Or it could be his sophomore season is a little bit of an outlier due to a small sample size issue. So in terms of projecting his three-point shot, it looks solid. He's square, but I'm not as confident in his three-point shooting as you are, just because we haven't seen him shoot the ball at a high level for more than 14 games in his college career. So that's one of my issues in regards to him. My other big issue in regards to Nesmith is he's not quick off the dribble, right? He shot 50% inside the arc in college on 6.5 attempts per game. When I was going back and watching his film, there was a lot of layups and types of shots that he finished where he didn't get his shoulders past his defender. He seemed to struggle to get his shoulders past his primary defender, and oftentimes he would make tough lay-ins, but they would only be tough because he didn't have the speed to actually get by his defender. Even in situations where he got his defender off balance or his defender wasn't directly in front of him to begin with, he still kind of struggled to get past his primary defender. And then there wasn't a lot of plays that I saw where he took a defender off the dribble and then exploded towards the rim. So I think those issues as a slasher will hurt him in the NBA. So with those two things in mind, he projects as a 3-and-D guy, but I'm not sure, due to that lack of quickness and athleticism, I'm not sure how much more he projects beyond that. And the three-point shooting is a little questionable for me.
Yeah, those are valid concerns. And then you also have the injury concern with his foot. Oddly enough, both Damian Lillard and C.J. McCollum both had foot injuries early in their careers as well. Mm-hmm. So you never know how that will affect him long term, or if that will be a concern moving forward. Could possibly be, might not ever affect him again. Yeah, he's definitely not the greatest ball handler, not the greatest playmaker off the dribble. I do think that the more deadly of a shooter he is, the easier it will be to get by guys based on how hard they'll have to close out on him. But yeah, he definitely needs to improve finishing around the rim. I still think you can be a really good scorer in the NBA without that kind of skill. But yeah, it's definitely needs to improve on that area.
Yeah, this year will be an interesting case study because you are high on him and Sadiq Bey. I am lower on Nesmith and Sadiq Bey for the same reasons, pretty much. The fact that I don't think they have a ton of upside due to a lack of quickness limiting their off-the-dribble game. So 3 years from now, 4 years from now, it'll be interesting to go back and look at this draft, especially those two guys, to see, okay, did they pan out and become kind of what you saw, or were my predictions correct in terms of their upside being limited? It'll be interesting to go back and look at that. This will be an interesting case study for that primary issue being a lack of athleticism limiting their upside.
I do think with Nesmith, it's not necessarily a lack of athleticism in my mind. I feel like he is fairly athletic. He just doesn't quite know how to do it properly, to drive properly. You saw with Sadiq Bey, him having a little bit of a slow first step. Nesmith is kind of the same way. It's not quite as slow in my opinion. He might be able to get by guys. But yeah, there's just a level of being able to use deceptiveness and hesitation dribbles and stuff like that to get by people. And I think if you learn those kind of crafty moves, you can be effective whether you're super fast or athletic off the dribble. And then with both of those guys, especially Nesmith, I feel like defensively he's plenty athletic enough to move laterally to keep up with wings, both shooting guards and small forwards in the NBA. And I just feel like he has really good instincts on that end. And the stuff that he struggled with, he recognizes he struggled, and I think he'll work tirelessly both through film study and in the gym to improve on those.
Yeah, I guess I should have been more specific with what I meant in terms of athleticism. I do think he has a slow first step, but something that I think I've noticed with Nesmith is he has a slow second gear too. He has a slow second step as well. Some guys have a slow first step, but then really accelerate on that second, third step. Nesmith doesn't have that burst on the second step either, the third step either. So there's times where it looked like he was going to get by his defender just based off his first step, and he couldn't do it just because he didn't have that extra burst after that first step. So it'll be interesting to see how he can get to the rim. You talked about him, players can make up for that by being shifty and handling the ball well, and he's talked about watching guys like a CJ McCollum and like a Damian Lillard to see what they can do off the dribble, but he does have a long ways to go to get to that point because his ball handling just wasn't impressive in college. He struggled shooting off of multiple dribbles, from what I've read and from what I could tell in that limited sample size. He was more of like a catch and shoot or a catch and one dribble type of guy. So it'll be interesting. We should talk about him in regards to our Blazers. So let me just say this. Even though I'm lower than you on Nesmith, I would be happy if we got him at 16, 6'6", with a 6'10" wingspan. That should be hopefully good enough length to play small forward effectively, especially if he can put on strength. And when you look at that shooting ability and his defensive potential, and the fact that he would be a good locker room guy and a hard worker, and has primarily called out studying Dame and CJ specifically in order to see what they do off the dribble. I would like him here in Portland.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I would love him or Sadiq Bey in Portland. I think Sadiq is a little better fit for what we need moving forward because Nesmith is more comparable to Gary Trent and Sadiq Bey is more of a bigger wing type. So we already have a player like that on the team. But the thing is, imagine Trent and Nesmith on the wings having that shooting ability, and Dame and CJ being able to kick out on either side of the paint to the corners and having those guys just spotting up for three. And that's one reason why I don't think he necessarily needs to be quick off the dribble if he's on a team like Portland, because he's just going to get wide open threes based on the other guy's ability on the roster.
Yeah, he does have bigger length bigger height, bigger length than Gary Trent Jr. He's an inch taller, has a little taller wingspan. Gary Trent Jr.'s standing reach is abnormally short compared to his height and his wingspan, so it's kind of hard to tell quite what Gary Trent Jr.'s standing reach is because I think his draft combine measurement was wrong, but Nesmith is a little bit bigger, so does project a little bit better at small forward than Gary Trent Jr. does. But the thing is, like, if Hood can't come back healthy, maybe Nesmith could play right away, but also Nas, maybe he projects as a small forward, power forward type. I don't know. Once Ariza moves on, it would be nice to have another young wing in the mold of a Gary Trent Jr., but we do actually have a logjam there right now, I feel like, on the perimeter. I feel like if we're looking for a guy to come in and play right away, it would be a big, and there's no bigs like that in this range that'd be ready to play right away. So I don't know. I'm still kind of making up my mind on what I want the Blazers to specifically look for in this pick. Obviously, I'd be happy with drafting him at 16. It's just, I don't know. It's almost like the Blazers just have to go with the best prospect available, and that might be Nesmith.
Well, that's why I kind of like him as both a prospect and as a fit now guy, because if you're a good shooter, you can play almost right away. We saw the guy we just talked about, Gary Trent Jr., in his second year come in and show some amazing progress and being able to shoot the three at over 40% clip. And that's useful on any team, whether you're a contending team or a rebuilding team. You always need a shooter like that. And I feel like if we can come up with some creative sets, like that's one thing I'll say is Jerry Stackhouse, the coach of Vanderbilt, ran some amazing sets for him to get open. And Nesmith excelled on coming off picks and stuff like that. That's something that Portland doesn't run a lot of. I would hope that if you had a player like that, you could develop some ways to get him some more shots. But yeah, I just feel like anytime you can shoot the ball as well as he does, you could come in and be effective and help out a team right away. You saw with Little this year, he did get a chance to have some minutes at times, showed some really nice things defensively, and actually fixed his shot a little bit to where it looked a lot better towards the end of the season. But if he would have been knocking down threes early on in the season, then he would have gotten more playing time consistently the entire season. So if you can come in this offense and knock down threes, I feel like you can get playing time rather quickly.
Yeah. I mean, the Blazers, I do expect to have good depth next year, though. So that would be, I mean, that's a good problem to have. Too much. I'd rather have too much depth than not enough depth. And if we have issues like we did this year with injuries, then it would be nice to have a guy like a Nesmith or a Saddiq Bey that, as a rookie, could probably step in right away and not mess anything up and possibly contribute to wins.
The other thing about that, too, is we haven't been in a position to really be able to trade any of our rotational pieces because we don't have very good depth. So if you have the depth and you have 4 or 5 wings, you can maybe get something for one of them and fill another need in that area versus just worrying about having to play like 4 or 5 different wings. So you could actually trade someone but not worry about how we're going to cover the loss of that player at the same time.
That is true. So anyway, that's our draft profile on Aaronnee Smith. Let me know if you agree with me or Eric more down in the comment section below. We are a little bit divided on him. Let me know if you want Portland to take him at 16. I just like reading your guys' comments in the comment section below, so go ahead and leave them down there. Also, as I said earlier, make sure you subscribe to NBA Uprise. On the outro slide, we will have the logo for that channel, and you can literally just click on that logo, and there will be a subscribe button that pops up. All you have to do is click it. So subscribing to that channel would help us out a bunch. We're dropping a bunch of other draft profiles over on that channel, and I'm really happy with how these are coming out, so I think you guys will enjoy them as well. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like, and we will catch you guys in the next draft profile. And until then, we're out of here. As always, peace out. Go Blazers.